What's happening, Infinite Yogi?
Not much. I mean, hanging out on a Friday night, very productive week.
Yeah, man, I
Pretty
really
excited to get the second podcast on.
awesome. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. We got to dive in a little bit last show talking about the subconscious mind,
Yep.
and it got me to thinking after I watched the episode. Um, the subconscious mind. The metaphor I use for it is like it's the seated one. Like
Yeah.
it's controlling everything. And when I think about the subconscious mind, I think about X-Men. I think about Professor Xavier because he's able
Uh-huh.
to hear everything and control people, and he's just sitting in a chair. And that's what the subconscious mind
Yeah.
is.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you because they say we only use a very small percentage of our brain. And at times we've all, or almost all of us, have had experiences where we thought we did something kind of X-Men like, where we read somebody's mind or we got an idea into somebody's head without even saying it. And with Professor X, he's able to do that all the time. So when you make that comparison, I think that's a pretty good comparison. We all have these spiritual superpowers that we have to learn how to use. And if we can get to that level, maybe we can be almost superhuman by being able to detect someone's intent um, by just reading their energies or reading someone's mind. So I mean, I this through the spiritual process, we could definitely become closer to Professor X. Maybe not exactly. Who knows?
I agree. And you said one key word: experiences, and that's where I was kind of going with it. Is how can you get into that driver's seat? If the subconscious mind is the seated one, like
Yeah.
Professor X, and it's in control of most things in the mind and what you do in the actions, how do you get in control in that seat? How do you get in that driver's seat, like you say, to get to that experience at that ultimate level? So I wanted to talk a little today about, the forgiveness of self so you can take control, because what is your subconscious mind? It's all your experience. That's all the mind is. That's who you are, your experiences, and build up. But what if you've been taking in wrong information all this time, not knowing that it's wrong? Because I think us as human beings, we all want to be good. Now, some of us self-sabotage based off, just behavior things and habits that we form over time. So how do you get in that driver's seat? How do you get in that driver's seat so you can how do you forgive self so you can get in that driver's seat? Is what I'm asking.
That's a really good question. We all carry mental burdens, I guess, that keep us out of the driver's seat or self-sabotage us. And I'd say forgiveness is key because I mean we all want to ascend up. We all want to move our spiritual energies upward, but I mean holding a grudge or having that kind of negativity about somebody is like kind of heavy baggage. Literally, they say it's baggage, but it's literally pulling you down. So imagine your whole goal is to ascend up and you hold that grudge against someone or against yourself, something you can't forgive yourself for, um, that's dragging you down, and it's literally impossible to reach your highest potential. How you forgive yourself and also how you forgive others. Maybe if I can put that in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good question, and that's really being in touch with yourself. You know,
Yeah.
because ask yourself, if I was in the same situation, would I deserve forgiveness? What do I really believe about other people? Do I believe that I have a redeeming quality? Do I believe that yourself or other people have a redeeming quality? Was it simply a mistake that I made? Was I misguided, or the other person was misguided, or is it simply who I am? So if you meditate on that, I've come to the conclusion myself that everyone has their own struggle, and so do we.
Yes.
And why should we judge someone just by and just kind of mark them by what they're going through right now. It's just a period of their growth. And,
Yeah.
it's that old saying where people are talking about the old you, but they can't even get in touch with the real you or who
Yeah.
you are right now.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it a little bit more challenging too for people, is because, you know, you always have those around you projecting that old you. I remember when, or they'll say things and, it's not so much irritating, but they're constantly bringing up somebody that you have changed and transformed from, so you've took on this wrong information and now you're trying to get right information, righteous information, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and overcome, but habits and things keep on popping in the way. What brought this up is interesting, and I want to give up the episode if somebody hasn't seen it, is Westworld. It's in the third season right now, but in the first two seasons, there's a guy in there, and he's a savage, man. He's all over the place. He's just doing whatever he wants to. Obviously, they're robots, but he's just a little bit more grittier than anybody else in there. So, but in season 3, he has to sit down and face himself. Like, he sees himself when he's a young man. He sees the savage. There's another one of him, and then there's a kid him, and the kid turns to him and he says, "Man, this is what I turned out to be." He said, "I'm really, in this one right here, which is the current one," he said, "I'm really disgusted by you." Which was funny, because it's like how long he's came along that journey. So then he talks to himself for a while, and then he ends up like destroying all his old self. He ended up like killing him, whatever. But in his mind, you don't know this is going on in his mind. So after he comes out, somebody comes out and takes him out. And they said, "Well, what happened in there?" He said, "I figured out that I was a hero." So I said, "Whoa, that's powerful," because he was able to face every aspect of himself. He said, "I figured out that I'm actually the hero." I said, "Whoa." I thought it was pretty awesome, man. I said, So.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, we all have our shadows, our past. And, we all need to come to terms with it. We've all probably been at that point before, but something that I said that we've all got to be able to do, and this maybe includes the subconscious as well, because our past lays in our subconscious in a little bit. Maybe we don't remember it.
Yeah.
But it's there. And just to not to get away, but I've seen situations where was with someone and they walked by, let's say, a dog behind a fence, and the dog started barking at them, and he said, "Oh, I don't know why that's happening. I don't know why the dog's barking at me. I like dogs." And you know what I mean? And one time we were out at somebody's house, and a dog started running at him, and this guy ran for his life. Like, he was actually afraid of dogs. So
Yeah.
It's a funny story right now, but where I'm getting with this is when he was walking by the dog in the fence and the dog barked at him, something inside of that dog sensed fear in that man. Although he didn't outwardly show it. Deep down inside, in his subconscious, he was afraid of dogs. And without him even reacting, just walking by that fence, that dog went crazy at him. It sensed the fear in this man.
Man.
So I don't know how I got off on that.
No, it's right on time, because, that dog is like a metaphor, man, because I've seen so many successful people, in my line of work. I've seen very highly successful people on the financial level, but then they got other issues. Like, I was working with this guy, and he's like, "I'm dealing with this," and like he just kept on having issues. I just couldn't understand. I'm like, "Dude, your life is perfect. Anybody want to fill your shoes?" But obviously, there's something else there. That dog, there's something that he feared that he didn't conquer. And you'll see that with successful people. It's like, well, you're successful, but you got some issues, man. And you got some issues. You need to face yourself, and because they're not as successful as they can be. Like, they might be successful for us, but if they face that issue that they have, if they face that dog in their life, oh my goodness, man, times 100, times 1,000, who knows?
No, 100%. I always say that everything that ever happened to us, we need to take it and make it sharp as a sword.
Yeah.
And that's how we should be wielding our past. Turn it into a weapon, make it
Mm,
into something that's useful for you so you can cut
mm.
through life. The problem with most people is that they have all these experiences, but they don't know how to put it together. You know what I mean? We're like clay. We need to be molded into like a very top form. And if we can do that, I mean, you can write down your strengths and experiences on a piece of paper. Try putting them in order and ask myself, what can I use this to become? You know, it may not be so easy at first, but you know, that's our struggle, is really using all our potential at one time, tapping into all our knowledge, you know, not just scattered knowledge that isn't really being useful in this world, you know.
Right knowledge. I would say right
The
knowledge, right
and the
action.
right
You know,
knowledge too.
it's got to be the right knowledge. You know, especially for you. And I was reading something the other day. It was like who we are is formed in the first 7 years of life. Like
Really?
so, yeah, that's what they say. I mean, you know, I kind of disagree a little bit, but I could see what I could see their point though. You know, because a lot of the things that we learn and behavior we learn it early off in life.
Hmm.
And then we just say that's us. You know, you might learn it from your parents. You might learn different things from having to react from your pecking order. You know, that's why they say middle child, last child has certain characteristics, and they're generally on point with that based off of that pecking order. And then you take your environment into play. You know, so as an adult, what things do you take in adulthood that you learn from that pecking order or that environment? You know, because you know they say, like, for instance, I'll use mental illness. They say it's not contagious, you know, but
Yeah.
if you're dealing with a mentally ill person and you think that's normal, don't you think you would take on some of those behaviors? You know, and you just think that's normal, like
We're
this person is nuts, and then you just start acting. Not everybody, but some people would.
we're all influenced by our surroundings, and they say that human beings are bits and pieces of other human beings around them. I've heard another saying that says you're an average of the 5 people you hang around with most of the time.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you know, if you were around somebody with a mental illness, well, I mean, if that was happening all the time, if you were around a schizophrenic, they would wear your own mental self down unless you had some pretty good strategies to deal with that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean,
you
but think about
become,
it as a child. Like, children are just straight recorders.
yeah.
You know, like this, you know, these devices record us when we make the podcast. That's all a child is a recorder. And it's going to
Oh,
spit back
like a sponge.
whatever you give to them. You know, you be like,
Hmm.
what? You things you don't even remember you said, they'll say it back to you. Like, I didn't say that around you. Like, yeah, you did. Cause you know, they're just parrots. So they're sponge, they're
Hmm.
recorders. So, but like you think about that as a 30, 40, 50-year-old, 60-year-old person, you don't remember what you recorded.
Not consciously, not consciously,
not consciously, but subconsciously, you're
subconsciously.
acting this
Yeah,
out. So, you know,
exactly. Our subconscious patterns, we don't know why we behave the way that we do, but it was programmed to us early in life.
yeah.
And I guess part of the spiritual process is how to change those behaviors. You know, part of it comes from the enlightenment, reading the scriptures, texts, books. Part of it comes from being around people of that same heightened spiritual level, and they transmit change to you. It can't be taught.
Mm,
It can
mm,
only be transmitted. To some aspect, I believe the spirituality is transmitted. It can't
mm,
necessarily be taught. You can read something, or you can be told something your entire life. Then one time, the same thing you heard your entire life sticks in your mind like it was the first time it was ever said in the universe. And
mm,
you finally got it.
yeah.
So part of it is experiential learning. Part of it is reading kind of scriptures, text, and books to kind of become more conscious. And part of that change to kind of stop those old patterns is like self-reflecting and that meditating on it. But I believe it can be defeated, and that
Yeah,
is the purpose of spirituality, is to change us on that deeper level, the software of our body.
definitely. It's like what you said earlier. You're like, Write it down. That doing that self-assessment
Hmm.
and really looking at it and asking people close around you what they think. Maybe. And if you have somebody, if you have a true friend, true friends give it to you raw.
Hmm.
Sometimes you might not like it. Um, I'm the brother that's going to give it to you raw. I was just like, hey,
Yeah,
this I got to tell you. You might be pissed today, but you're gonna be happy tomorrow. I would say
exactly.
give them to them straight so you don't get late. So do that self-assessment, but then after that self-assessment, I think before you learn right information, you actually have to sit down and talk to yourself, not argue with
Yeah.
yourself, because you might want to check in if you do that. But sit down with yourself, sit down with
Yeah.
yourself and say, forgive me. Talk to yourself. Forgive me. I have given you wrong information. I need you to accept this new information. Because sometimes when you get new right information and all you got was wrong information, you will fight it. You could be looking at the right information and their mind will reject it. And that's just like what you said when you say they just have this moment like it's the first time that they ever heard in the universe.
Hmm.
They've been getting
Hmm.
wrong information all along, and that noise has been up so loud that they won't even hear it. Have you ever talked to anybody about information like we're talking about right now, and they're like, man, let's talk about something else? They won't say that, but they'll be like, you see that bottle of water over there? It's just like,
I've had
that
somebody
was.
fall asleep doing that when they're trying to start snoring. Yeah, you mean if it's not your time to listen, they say that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
The master will appear.
Yeah,
Ain't it the truth?
when the student is ready,
When
the
the student is ready.
information was always there.
It was always
But we
there.
were influenced by something else, influenced by hormones, influenced by friends,
Yeah.
influenced by money, power.
And yeah. And a lot of people think this is really challenging and hard, but when you're really learning, when you really learn, I know you've experienced this too. It's almost like you're remembering. It ain't even like you're learning it. It's like, oh, I remember that. Have you had that moment where you're like, oh, I remember that now? Opposed to like, oh, I'm learning, like academia. It's not like that. It's like, oh, it's refreshing. It's like an old song and you're hearing it over again. You make you want to dance and move again. That's how knowledge feels to me.
Yeah, and that's an interesting take. I mean, are you referring to like, thinking that it was there on kind of like an infinite kind of level? Like, was it like knowledge you were born with, or or did you acquire this knowledge in your life?
I think yeah, I definitely think you're born with it. I think you're born with it, and you just have to reclaim it. It's
Hmm.
already yours. Just reclaim it. It's already yours. It's just like that one. There's a website where they like type in your name and information, and you might find some money that you just missed out. I don't know if
What's
you heard
that?
about it.
Send me that link later on.
I'll shoot it your way. But it's like, yeah, it's very refreshing. It's very refreshing, and it's like, yeah, it's always been there. It's always been there. But before you get that right information, you have to forgive yourself, man. You got to talk to yourself and say, hey, I've given you wrong. If you've been given wrong information, because I think some people think because they were raised a certain way. Like I was dealing with somebody about their diet one time. They're like, well, I've been eating this my whole time growing up. That didn't make it right. That
When
doesn't make
when
it good
when
for
did
you.
you decide who you are?
Yeah. It's just like,
Would be my question.
yeah.
It's yeah, just doing things always, but forgiving yourself may be the highest spiritual act, and it may be the act that truly opens the door wide for spirituality. Because if you're not comfortable with yourself, I mean, that is a giant mountain or roadblock in your way that's going to affect you in every single thing you do. Only when you
Every
forgive
single.
yourself can you forgive others, or can you even deal with people fairly, because you're not being fair with yourself. So everything's slanted. Once you forgive yourself is truly when you transform. You know what I mean? And we need to reclaim all our spiritual power and spiritual energy. And when we have these feelings against other people or ourselves, once again, it's just weight. It's holding you down. In a spiritual text I once read, there's two energies that operate oppositely in this existence. One is gravity, it pulls us down, and the other is grace, it pulls us up. And I
Mm.
thought, I've never thought about it like that, that the opposite of gravity is grace. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to ascend our spiritual energies upward. And when you have that kind of built up negative energy against yourself and others, it just holds our energies down, and we can't experience that kind of that uplifting, that grace. So once we can reclaim all of our energies, forgive ourselves, forgive other people, that is when we truly become open. And in spirituality, they say, third eye open now. You know what I mean? You're intuitive, you can read people's energy more so than others, and you yourself are in such alignment with who you are that you're just cutting through life at everything you do.
Yes, yes. And that's unlocking that Professor Xavier power, man. That's real deal
Exactly what
stuff.
we're
That's real deal stuff, man. Whew. I've never heard that before. The grace and gravity. No, you're
Yeah,
definitely right,
no,
man.
I never thought about it that way either, but ever since then it started making more sense to me that there's two opposite energies. At the end of the day, I'm flesh and bones, and sitting next to me could be a pile of flesh and bones. So I asked myself, what's the difference between me and that? Is that there's some energy running through me, something non-physical. And there is ways for that energy to really get low and have low vibrations. And then there's ways for that energy to have really high vibrations. And I guess the higher vibrations you have, the more spiritually free or spiritually developed you are. And when I say spiritual, I mean non-physical, or something that we can't see. If we can't see it, or it's not made of matter, it's spiritual. So a thought, it's not made of potassium or calcium, not that I know of. It's something non-physical. A dream is non-physical. Whatever's bringing meat and bones, flesh and bones to life is non-physical. So it's that non-physical energy that can experience grace, or for lack of better terms, gravity, be pulled down by some of the negative things we do with our other non-physical dimensions, like our mind. The mind is non-physical. No one's ever seen a mind. There's never
Yeah,
been a photograph of a mind.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
those dimensions are the ones that we need to free up by forgiving ourselves, or that energy becomes really slow.
It's like when you think these negative thoughts and they hold you down, you're blocking that signal from that,
Mm-hmm.
that greater spiritual world, because
Yeah.
like that negativity does weigh you down. Just, at the psychological level, it just, your body does things to your body. Your day will be taken up by just thinking. Like, have you ever been really upset with somebody and
Yeah.
it takes over the whole day? You might look up, the day's over. Oh, I've
Your
been
energy's
pissed.
drained.
Energy's drained. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm frustrated. My day's ruined. I'm still pissed off at that person. Nothing got resolved.
It
It's
takes
not
a
a
lot
good.
of energy to be angry.
Yeah.
You can't be malnourished and on your deathbed and be angry. Not that I know of. You need a lot of energy, a lot of free time to be angry all the time, if but certainly when you get yourself into that state, it can really burn you out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
You
why
can see it. You can see it on people's faces, man, that, just to let it go. Like, um, just in every day, like sometimes if somebody does something that kind of irritates me, I'll just immediately let it go, because it's unfortunate, but I could see sometimes that their life is miserable. I
that's
remember
what you need to see. Yeah.
when I was younger, I think I was like 17, 18, and I was working at a gas station. This woman came in, and I've always been the same person. I love people, man. I'm a people lover.
You're a chill guy.
I'm the people champion, man.
The people's champ.
I'm the brother, man. I'm a brother to everybody.
Yeah.
So, and I'm talking to people, and yes, it was full, it was packed. So, then I got to her, and she's like, I want the. She got all upset about something I don't know. She's like, I want the manager's number. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm the assistant manager. How can I help you? Oh, I want to talk to the other manager. She got all women down. I said, hey, have a great day, and I hope you feel better about whatever's in your way.
Yeah.
That's what I said as a young kid. And then so she went out, she left, and then, about 3-4 minutes later, she calls me. Hey, I want to apologize. I'm so sorry. I've been going through so much at home and different things like that. I don't know what just happened right there. But you never know what people are going through, and you never know how you're going to impact them, like what happens when that negative force meets that negative force, and you just, that's why it's better to, avoid it and not let it take over your day. Cause I could have took that negative energy, held it in me, and then released it out on everybody that came in, toss your chains down on the counter, not speak to anybody. Every time
you handled it like a sage.
Yeah. So it's just like, whew.
And she had that moment, and you brought her into the present.
Yeah.
Rather than having her mind in the past.
Yeah.
Of what was happening. Being angry is not being in the present. It's not, Eckhart Tolle has that book, The Power of Now. It's definitely not in the now. That infinite moment we have is in the now. And when you're angry, for sure you're living in the past. You're definitely not living in the future. You may be looking towards some event that you're dreading, but I mean, you've got to be out of that infinite moment to be angry. So if we can keep ourselves focused on the now, only then can we have our amazing powers unleashed. It's kind of like, I've been watching the documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it, but The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls. And man, those guys were infinite. I mean, they were in the moment. I mean, as much as, I'm not sure if you grew up watching the Bulls or not, as much as, you may look at Dennis Rodman and say, oh, he's kind of weird. He's got the tattoos and the nose ring. I mean, when he was on the court, this guy was going 100. You know what I mean? And I think when you're, and guys like Kobe, you guys like, the New England Patriots or whoever it is, when you're operating on that infinite level, like you're beyond like the level of thought. You know what I mean? It's like you're when they say, oh, he's unconscious, he's hitting them and he's like he's literally not conscious. He's thinking. He's not in his own way. The thoughts aren't blocking him. It's just the pure potential is coming through.
Yeah, man. I've been there. Not that high, not that
on the basketball court.
On the court, man. Not that high level. Not an NBA championship, but man, it's just like, and then you want to get back there so bad. Like every time you hit the court, like you might, oh, boom, boom. You're trying to feel that out, but something just happens. And I've trained athletes, and just that mind-body connection, man. It just, whew. But if that could happen on a court, just think if that happened in life and you could just move and sync in one, oh my goodness. And if you could do that with 2-3 people in a group, oh man. I always say 2 people have the power of 100, at least. That's even if you're barely functioning. 3 have the power of, 1,000. But think if you're in line and in tune, oh my goodness, power of 1,000. 4, power of 10,000 people. 4 people in tune with each other, power of 10,000.
Oh, it's infinite. Isn't that why we're here, though? Isn't that what we're all wanting to experience? We want to be on that infinite level all the time, going 24/7. We've all tasted it and thought I had no idea that I could perform at that level. And we exceeded our expectations. And we thought, I need to be like that all the time.
All the time.
But man, life gets in your way. We get in our own way.
Yeah. I remember the night, man. We was down. And I said, give me the ball.
Yeah.
One guy came up to me, he said, man, I didn't know you could shoot like that.
Mm-hmm. Lights out, bro. Lights out.
Lights out, man. I might have to call him in the next episode to give us a couple witnesses.
break out the old footage. Yeah.
But you said an interesting thing. I want to go back a little bit. And you brought up anger. You said anger is living in the past. And
Yeah.
this episode, we're talking about forgiveness of yourself. So you can forgive everybody. You could just release that energy that holds you down. When that happens, when you go back to try to face yourself, there's a lot of emotions that rise up. Anger is one of them. And then there's just a whole lot of stuff. There's a whole lot of disturbances that come up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely when you go back and try to face yourself. That's why it's so tough. That's why people avoid it. And it's like that old storybook we read when you're younger. I don't know if you read it, but The Princess and the Pea. That little pea at the bottom of all those mattresses was causing so much discomfort. So if you're not able to put your issues to rest, it's just constant discomfort. And facing yourself is one of the toughest things that you could possibly do. I got into meditation once, and I knew, we had a friend who wasn't doing so well with his mental health. I obviously won't give any names or whatnot, but we were talking about meditation and how much we enjoyed meditation and, just relaxing and zenning out, with, however you want to do it, like sitting in a chair or just, with your legs crossed on the floor. And this guy, he said, meditating invites demons. I don't meditate. It's evil, is what he said. And I didn't understand it off the bat, but the more I kind of meditated on that, I realized the demons were his own. Demons do exist. They exist inside of us. It's no external demon going to come get you. It's a negative energy inside of us.
Yeah.
And we love to personify. So we put a face on it. We made it an evil figure, but it's the part of us that we don't want to acknowledge,
Yeah. 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 It's the part of us that
So
we want to put away and don't want to face. We don't want to face any pain whatsoever. We want an easy life. We want a life without suffering, but it's going to be painful. When you go back to face yourself to go to the next level, it's going to be painful. It's just like working out, I know there's a lot of working out in that. What'd you say that documentary is called?
The Last Stand.
The Last Dance.
The Last Dance, sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot. I know there's a lot of working out, and that's painful because you're going to face your old self to try to get better. I've always said working out is one of the best metaphors for life because nobody else could do it for you. You can have a coach, you can have a trainer, you can work out in a team, but hey, you got to do this for yourself, baby. You got to eat right, you got to get your mind right, and you got to come and put in that work. And that's it's going to be painful at first. It's going to be very painful. Can you imagine somebody that's 300-400 pounds sitting on a couch, 400 pounds sitting on a couch, and then they finally come back and they work out? That 5-minute workouts feels like an hour to work out.
Yeah.
It's painful, but you got to face it.
I've heard that pain is love. Here, I've got another saying, pain is self-love. If you want to love yourself, put yourself through that pain. No one should be able to treat you worse than you kind of treat yourself. You should be your own worst critic. You don't want to beat yourself up, but you should be so conscious of yourself and that no one else can shake you, is my opinion. You're your own worst critic, then toughen up for the world. But definitely, I think you're totally on the right track with what you're saying there. Just wanted to add that one point.
Yeah. No, man. And, facing your inner demons, like him just face. That's why, you were right because he was right and you were right. You're like, I'm meditating, I'm going in. He's like, there's demons there. Yeah. Because you tried it before and you faced yourself and it probably was painful, but if he would have kept on with it, he would have begun to climb mountains.
Exactly. Which, to your point of, why is it so difficult to face yourself? It's just that mental toughness. You know what I mean? Is, do we have what it takes to traverse our own mind. We all human beings want to move towards pleasure. So no one wants to do that hard inner work. So it's just, what type of habits do we build? Are we moving towards pleasure? Are we masking our former self with TV, maybe with work? Maybe we're running from all our problems. Maybe it's alcohol or drugs. What are we doing to escape our self or
That's a very
forgive ourselves?
that's a very deadly one, is the alcohol, because it's so easy to go to the store and get. It's so readily available, like going to make that escape to that and say, hey, I'm going to go.
It definitely, everyone, no, definitely alcohol is an easy one to go with. It's so readily available. And if you do it right, you can wake up in the morning and function moderately properly. But over the long term, alcohol abuse is definitely going to show. It'll physically change you, the way you operate your organs, even the way you look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But definitely alcohol is an easy one to abuse. Marijuana is another easy one to get into. Now it's kind of legalized. You can go out there and smoke it. A little bit of stigmatism is broke. People have edibles now and whatnot.
Yeah. Food's another one. I mean, if you're doing something like after, if you're doing something as an escape, oh, boom, all things in moderation. I'm not saying that you can't do some of those things, but all things in moderation. But if you're using it as an escape and a clutch and to run away from yourself, then it's going to lead to destruction down the road. Or you're going to postpone facing yourself, because you're going to face yourself regardless. But when is it going to be on your terms, or is it going to be on the,
or are you going to get ambushed?
Life's term. Yeah.
Are you going to go searching? Are you going to be the predator or the prey? Really? Your own self is going to come after you. But, it's kind of like, do you want to be on kind of self start mode where you're going in there and doing what you want, or do you want something else dictating on you? So, whatever we try to, whatever you're abusing, you're using that to kind of get started, or you're using that to, what's a better word? Put you into that state. You know what I mean? You're using it to run to a pleasant state, because you can't create a pleasant state on your own. That's the only reason you would do it. You indulge in alcohol. Now I feel good. I mean, I'm feeling love for the homies now after like my, third or fourth shot, or you go through, a chocolate cake and that made me feel good. Why did I need that to feel good about myself? You know what I mean? What was I lacking that made me do that? And it can be easier to run to something like that, but at the end of the day, it turns into a destructive path. Whether you eat your way to the grave, whether you drink your way to the grave, you know what I mean? And that is a life where you're going to do nothing but regret when you get there.
You reminded me of an old proverb, and it says, if there's no enemy on the inside, then the enemy on the outside can do you no harm. And I think we look for things externally to satisfy us, but you can never be satisfied by anything externally. It has to come from within.
Yeah.
True happiness. It just doesn't happen. Like, that's why people, they'll have one car and you'll be looking at somebody else's car. You have a brand new Beamer and you say, well, I don't have a Lamborghini, Oh, you got a Lamborghini. Well, I don't have a private jet. It's always because that's not happiness. That doesn't provide happiness. And the same thing with food and alcohol. You're like, okay, this is going to make me happy, but then you have to go to that again. So I guess it can make you happy. It can make you happy for a moment, but you don't want happiness. You want joy. Happiness is in the moment. You want joy. You want something that lasts for a lifetime. And joy lasts for a lifetime.
Yeah, no, definitely. With you kind of talking about, those, external, forces, things, foods, liquids, anything, whatever you want to do. It's false. it's a false happiness or a false joy. And you're right. You buy a car, then you see a better car, or you have I don't know what it is, a bike or a house, you see a better house, you're with your partner and you think you'll be better with somebody else. We're always looking at something more, and that's just the nature of the human being, that no matter what you do, it could be anything, you want more than what you have right now. And it could something more, something more, something more. It turns into just an endless pursuit. And so somehow a human being is seeking this limitless expansion, but trying to do it through the physical world, trying to gain more and more assets. But physical, the definition of physical is a boundary. It can only get to a certain level. So no matter what you expand, it can't be infinite. The only way to infinitely expand is that infinite dimension inside. It has no limits. So if you work on yourself, if you meditate, you know, we all have a spiritual body that radiates off us. And you can read people's intentions and their minds when you get close to them. I mean, if you're around somebody angry, all you need to do is get within a few feet of them and you can feel that anger on
Mm.
you. If you're around somebody happy, that happiness becomes so infectious because, we do have that spiritual body or that karmic body. We're constantly releasing exhaust from our body. Anger creates a different exhaust. Happiness creates a different exhaust. So, you know, that's something that we need to kind of be aware of, is people can read our intentions,
Yeah.
and we have a spiritual body that, we need to take care of.
Yeah. You take care of yourself. Self-care, man. Self-help, self-care, self-assessment. You know, I, there's another saying I always say is, the best gift you can give to anybody in your life is a healthier and better you. And I mean that on all levels, physical, mental, spiritual. You need to work on yourself. And that's the best you
Yeah.
can give everybody that's the best gift you can give everybody around you.
Yeah. And kind of like to finish off my point there, I kind of got lost in that whole description of the spiritual body, but it was that it's only the spiritual body that can infinitely expand. So we need to master that, or our desires will take us over. People ask me, what's the best way to quit drinking? What's the best way to quit smoking? I say meditate. And studies have shown that through meditating, you can actually rebuild neurons in your brain. And it actually will reduce um, addictions. It can actually soothe withdrawals. So rather than letting our desires rule us and wanting a better car or wanting more of this or more of that, by meditating, we can kind of shrink that wanting and be happier in the moment, be more grateful and have more gratitude for what we have now. So that's kind of one way of kind of overcoming that need for something more, and kind of chasing that and having that hold us down. I'm not saying the extreme. The extreme would be like to be like a Buddha or to give everything away. I'm saying finding that happy medium.
Well, that's interesting because you remind me of something again. You remind me of it earlier when we were talking, and everybody has their own path. So maybe for you it is to be that Buddha, give away everything. But
It could
I would
be.
prefer you not to go to that extreme. But if you do give it up, my email is below.
I like my I like my PS4
Definitely.
and my house.
There's a in my car.
Yeah.
There's a book in it. It's about that, and it's some of his friends went off to be a Buddha, but he wanted to go on his own journey. You know what I'm talking about? Do you know this book?
No, I don't think I've read that
I
one.
have to find it. It's in my library, but and he goes off to his own journey. He goes to his own struggles, and then at the end of the book, you know, he comes to this enlightenment, and and then he's on a boat. He becomes the ferryman that takes him across the boat of water, and his son comes to him, and his son doesn't recognize him, and he
Yeah.
has to take his son on the journey too as well, because his son's like hard-headed like him, but everybody has their own journey, you know.
Mhm.
And so, you know, what is that meditation like for you, and going on that journey and digging deep inside yourself? So you bring up meditation a lot, you know.
Yeah, it's helped me
Obviously that's
quite a
something
bit.
that somebody is familiar, something that a lot of people are familiar with. Like, give us some basic meditation tips, tools, you know, for a beginner. Like, tell me, like, I'm beginning meditating. What do I need to do? Tell me about that.
That's a really good question. And I'll tell you right now that there's different levels of meditation. There's one that you can just use to calm yourself down. You know what I mean? You can uh, go into your thoughts, and you can kind of arrange some of your thoughts. Thinking of meditation almost like this is you open up your computer and you go to your desktop. You might clean some things up. You might file some things. You might upload something. You might run a cleaning or a disk clean or whatnot. Your mind operates similarly to any electronic device or hard drive, and the maintenance mode is meditation. You can get into meditations in normal life and not know it. You can be on a cardio machine, and now all of a sudden you're trapped in your thoughts, but you have no idea you're on the machine. Some people go into a little bit of a meditation when they're driving and they say, how did I get there? You know what I mean? If you're hiking, been on a 4 or 5 hour, 6 hour hike, you're literally in your thoughts and you've gone miles and miles. At the most basic form, meditation is separating the mind and the body, is really what it is, because for the most of the time, we're operating as one. You're thinking and walking at the same time, you're playing basketball, and you're at a high level of thought, but they're two actually completely. That's first and foremost what it is. When you isolate the mind, then you can go into this maintenance mode. But for a basic, that's really kind of, I mean, and it can go deeper than that, but for a basic meditation, I mean, the first thing you want to do is you want to become still. And you can sit with your legs crossed. You can do it on your bed or sofa if that's comfortable. And you can sit with your legs crossed, I think. I mean, if you've got the flexibility to do it. Second thing you want to do is, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to go palms up? You'll gain energy if you do this. If you go palms down, you'll lose energy. So, you know, if you're really wound up and you want to go to bed, you might go palms down. If you want to have more of a enlightened thought meditation or just recharge in between work, you might want to go palms up. And I mean, people have said this, you've heard this 100 times, but you do want to focus on your breathing. And I'll tell you why. And some people may meditate for years and never get to this state, is once you focus on your breathing and you're consciously doing it, what you really want to do is slip into a state where you're actually not aware that you're breathing anymore. Your body takes over and you start breathing with your kind of autonomic body. And then from there, you hope that your mind goes with it. That now you are no longer in the conscious thought. You're in a waking daydream is really what you're in. And from there, I say, and I don't want to confuse anyone, but you go into a little bit of a maintenance mode where all your thoughts and ideas from the past start pulling up, and then you literally get to arrange those. You know what I mean? An idea of something, oh, Jeremiah, something this morning that someone told you that you forgot about, that'll pop up. And you say, oh yeah, and you can go file that here. A useless idea might pop up from earlier. You can go ahead and delete that, right? Or you can maybe even upload another idea, say, you know what, I'm going to be the greatest, you know, politician in the world. I would never want to be, but you go into the software of your own body. So basically, you know, and I know that was a long answer, but sit still, go palms up to gain energy, go palms down to lose energy, and just sit for 15, 20 minutes. If all you're doing is thinking the whole time and you're like, oh, you know, I wish I'd stop thinking, just don't worry about it. Just keep practicing your meditation again and again. You'll become more calm, and eventually you'll go deeper and deeper. And you may even one day get to that infinite level that I like to mention, where you're thinking anymore. You're not in your own way. And then what happens there, I won't try to influence you. I mean, hopefully we all get to experience that for ourselves.
Wow, yeah, I think that definitely gives the viewers and the listeners something to a little drill to go do in
Mhm.
between the next show. You know, try it out, leave a comment, message us about it, and let us know what comes up or how you felt or how it went for you.
Yeah. We'd love to hear back.
Yeah, I definitely would love to hear. I would love to go with. I want, and that's what this is all about. We want to go on this journey with you guys. You know, you don't have to do this alone. There's 7 billion people on the planet. Don't go on a journey alone. There's no reason to go alone. There's people that have experienced the same things that you've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you get some insight on that and get a deeper understanding so you can face yourself and you can defeat yourself fast. I want to win fast. Sometimes it's not
There's
going to
only
go as
one way to
fast as you
win.
like. Yeah.
Definitely, we're here to transmit that knowledge to you. And, it's the spiritual process. And, we're working it out ourselves. And, we can all do this together. And the more you're in the company of people that have the same goals as you, the faster you can get there. That's why we're here.
We want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and email if you want us to talk about any topics or subjects that pop in your mind. Give us a holla.
Holla.